So recently, the MMA community has been talking about Ronda Rousey potentially returning to the UFC following her recent departure from the WWE. Miesha Tate and Holly Holm both threw their names in the hat. Both did interviews recently saying they would absolutely rematch Ronda. So Ronda is not returning. Ariel Helwani tweeted this today. It says Ronda Rousey is not considering a UFC comeback. No truth to the rumors started yesterday. Aljamain Sterling, Chris Curtis, and Curtis Blaydes recreate the Machop evolution meme.
Machop. Machop. Machop.
Aljamain Sterling on his YouTube channel reacts to the beef between Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis. Aljo believes them arguing over who is quote-unquote more African is silly.
Yeah, that got awkward for me because I was just like, he's dropping the N-bomb in a room full of white folks, which is just hilarious to me. I don't know, maybe once or twice, he said it like 5, 6, 7 times. I was like, all right, I don't know if we're gonna say something else, but this is getting a little awkward. And I do get the thing from like apartheid and all that, but I do question, like, at what point, how many generations removed before you cannot use that as like you're not really from here, you know? Like this is my issue. My parents are immigrants here, right? So my parents are from Jamaica. They're immigrants to the U.S. The U.S. has given us everything, obviously, clearly. But then you have some people who say like you're not from here or you're not really American because you have your Jamaican heritage attached. And I'm just like, so at what point do you actually become a real citizen other than your birthright of where you were born? That's where it gets like silly for me. It's like if I have a kid in freaking, where's the whitest place I can think of? Sweden. Is my kid really Swedish? I mean, they grew up in Sweden. Like, yeah, but no. I don't know whether or not if Izzy is right in using that as a defense. Why are you guys even like making this a point of focus? You guys are both technically African, but Izzy grew up for the most part a good amount of his life in New Zealand, but he claims, you know what I mean? So, but he could claim both, the same way I claim the United States because I was born and raised here, but I also have my upbringing and how I was grown with a Jamaican culture intact. And it's just weird. It's just a weird angle. I get it, but it is a weird angle. You're fighting about who's more African. I mean, you're both technically really African, but one who's more African. If there's any of them who's actually the realest African in the UFC was Francis Ngannou. And even just talking about race, it's, yeah, I get the point that Izzy's making because, yeah, he's actually, if he did 23andMe, yeah, straight up Nigerian. Where's Dricus from? Holland? I don't know. Sweden? Who knows where the heck his bloodline is actually from, where they travel from. But how many generations has he had in South Africa? But now we're harping on this thing that it's just like, I don't know, dude. You looking at me, I'm like, I'm just a guy, I'm a bystander. Like, I don't want to catch any strays.
Daniel Cormier warns Israel Adesanya that he absolutely cannot lose to Dricus Du Plessis. On his YouTube channel, DC went on to say Rogan sat back down because Joe just has all this knowledge. I go, what was that all about? He goes, well, Dricus is Dutch, and the Dutch colonists took over Africa and apartheid, and he just went into this whole thing. He pulls up his phone and gives me a quick breakdown. I screen grab it and send it to my group message. After they read it, they're like, as I get more into it, I can see how Izzy was so upset because reality was, it just looked like there was no direction behind it. The use of the N-word I did not like, but when you really dig into it, telling 3 African champions that they're not African, you can see where those guys would get upset. It's an ugly, ugly thing, but it's going to make for a crazy fight that we don't have to wait long for. It's going to happen in Australia in 9 weeks. Dricus took no damage, so they're going to fight in September. It literally is going to happen very quickly, and because of that, we get to get some resolution to it. The reality is, if it's rooted in all this historical stuff that it is, there really won't be a resolution to it. Because then Izzy will still have the same types of feelings he has towards how his people were done by the people that colonized Africa. It will never be a resolution. If Izzy can win, it'll feel great for him. But if he loses, boy, could you imagine if he loses to Dricus? That's the one guy he doesn't want to lose to. You can't lose to him. You're in a situation now where you cannot lose. Henry Cejudo gives his breakdown of UFC 290. Henry welcomes a fight against Brandon Moreno.
The main event, Yair Rodriguez versus Alexander Volkanovski. Woo. You know, Volkanovski did just a really good job of covering distance, taking him down to eventually find those ground and pound. And that's pretty much all she wrote. What makes Alexander Volkanovski is extremely special is his tactical work, is the fact that he can tactically fight everybody different. And you got to give kudos to that. And now, guys, for the co-main event, I know a lot of you guys think I'm a hater. You're not Mexican. You're a fake one, blah, blah, blah. Alexander Pantoja, and I predicted this one to the team. I said Alexander Pantoja has more grit, has more fight, and he only has one mode, and it's a style of just fighting. I predicted this fight because I've seen it, and I've trained with both of them. Not being a hater, if Brandon Moreno still wants to go at it, if he still wants to scrap, with all due respect, if you want to get it, let's do it, Brandon Moreno. To me, the winner of the whole night, other than Pantoja, is Du Plessis. You know, Du Plessis, I doubted you. I apologize. You're a lot better than what I thought. And I think because of that victory, I respect you so much more. But kudos and respect. And again, Du Plessis, congratulations, man. And to Bo Nickal, take your time, because once you get to that top 10, it's going to be real.
Bo Nickal says he wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, Bo said, I want to fight Khamzat, but I think we need to build more. He hasn't fought in a long time. I think his last fight was Holland, right? Yeah, so he smashed Kevin Holland up almost a year ago. I'd like to see him maybe fight a 185er. I'll get a couple more fights in. My goal with Khamzat has always been Allegiant Stadium. Sell it out for the belt and blow the roof off that place when I smash that guy. I think it's going to take a little more to build my reputation and get to where I want to be, and for him to get where he needs to be in order to make that fight what it deserves, to give it the atmosphere that it deserves. How do you guys think that fight would play out? Post your opinions in the comments. Speaking of Khamzat, Khamzat had another video message for Kamaru Usman earlier today. He posted this to his Twitter.
Usman, how are you?
And that's going to wrap it up for the news. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe to Full Mount MMA and click the bell icon to be notified when we post future ones. Here are the 3 top comments from last video. These comments are in reference to Francis Ngannou's manager accusing Dana White of trying to mess up negotiations between Francis and Tyson Fury. The first one's from Jay Sterling. It says Dana White is just now being accused of messing with the negotiations. Dana had a chip on his shoulder since Ngannou left. The second one says anyone who knows Dana White was definitely irked that things were working out for Ngannou. The UFC bullied Ngannou as soon as he became champ, but Ngannou stood his ground and won. No gimmicks. And the final one's from Chad Brooks. It says we all know exactly why Dana was trying to mess up the Tyson fight. He doesn't want fighters to leave the UFC and do better because it downplays the organization and it increases the risk that other fighters will consider the same thing. This is especially true when Francis left holding the title and was the baddest man on the planet. Shout out to Francis for his success. Those were the 3 top comments from last video. If you want to be featured on the next one, all you have to do is comment down below. If you missed yesterday's news, click the video on screen to get caught up. And make sure to go subscribe to our second channel where we post our exclusive MMA interviews.